Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you probably know, a thing that got incredibly popular over the last few years are escape rooms. You've probably heard of them. You and a bunch of your friends get locked in a room and have to solve a series of puzzles to escape. And it didn't take long for there to be a movie about it. Even though Escape Room wasn't exactly a critical success, I was actually surprised by how entertaining it was. But of course, we're not here to discuss the movie's quality, but instead how to beat the rooms and escape. We'll look at which rooms you can cheat in so that you wouldn't have to complete the puzzles, and how to keep most of the characters alive. In the film, 6 strangers from all different walks of life are sent a mysterious black cube. After playing around with it, they notice it's a puzzle box they need to unlock. When they manage to open it, a note pops out saying they can win $10,000 by doing a special escape room. They arrive at the building, and after leaving their personal belongings at the front desk, they go into the waiting room. There they all get to know each other.
Oh, this is gonna suck. Hi.
Hey! Among the group are our protagonists Zoey, Ben, Jason, Amanda, Mike, and Danny. When Ben tries to leave for a smoke, he rips off the door handle, and it turns out that the game has already begun. In the place where the handle was is now an oven dial. They spread out across the room and start searching for the clues to escape. Zoey then sees a copy of Fahrenheit 451 and assumes that it must be the number they need to enter into the dial.
What was that?
I don't know.
Unfortunately, this begins their death trap. On the ceiling, glowing heating elements appear and warm up the room. After accidentally hitting more buttons, the windows are covered and even more heat is introduced. While searching for a way out, Zoey discovers a sentence written on the wall reminding them to use coasters. This leads them to the big table in the middle. They all push down on the coasters, which opens a small corridor behind a painting on the wall. And although the door is open, if they stop pushing down the coasters, it closes again. The problem is that as they start to leave the room, there won't be enough people there to push down all the coasters. This room is probably the easiest to escape because the puzzle isn't very complicated. In the movie, the guys fill up 7 glasses of water from a dispenser and set them on the coasters, and for the last cup, Ben uses his flask to fill it up. But they can also just put a few of the magazines on top of the cups. They can use the furniture or the flowers as well, really anything that has some weight to it. This would be much faster than filling up 8 cups from an almost empty dispenser. Some might argue that it would be considered cheating and that the people watching wouldn't allow them to continue. However, Ben uses his flask that he sneaked in to fill up the final cup, which was also not intended. So bending the rules is clearly allowed. Another solution is blocking the door to the duct so it stays open. They can do this by taking some of the smaller furniture or the chairs in the room and sticking them in the space. The duct is big enough that they could place something to hold it open and still crawl into it. But we learn a valuable tip here. Don't touch anything unless you are certain you know what you're doing. The last thing you should do is run into the room and start hitting buttons randomly, as it might activate the threat. There's also no set time limit, so there's no rush. After they climb into the air duct, the waiting room explodes. They crawl into the next room, which is a comfortable winter cottage. Some of the characters are really upset with what just happened and want to call the police. It turns out that Danny secretly sneaked in a phone to pass any downtime. Unfortunately, there's no signal. But there's something else they can do with the phone which will be important later. To leave the cottage, they need to unlock a door that is closed by a combination lock, and it requires a 7-letter password. However, they wouldn't really need to find the code. The easiest way out of the cottage is to break the windows and climb out. There's nothing indicating that they're unbreakable, and they're easily big enough to fit a person. So with a few safety precautions, it should be doable. Also, the front door looks pretty weak. Unlike the big solid one from the previous room, this one is made up of a few wooden planks. So something they can try is ramming it open or breaking it. Ben then notices a few reindeer trophies, and in a flashback he remembers driving all of his friends while he was completely wasted. He ended up in a car crash, but shortly before they all sang Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and that turns out to be the password. But it doesn't seem like a coincidence that the code was related to such a crucial turning point in Ben's life. They make their way out of the cottage and find themselves in a winter setting that appears to be outdoors on a frozen lake. When it gets even colder, the cabin locks its doors and they're trapped in this place, which is meant to look like it's outside, but it's really not. On the edge of the room, Jason finds a door which allows them to exit, but they need to find the key. Then the older guy Mike discovers a fishing rod which they can put in a hole in the ice. He lets down the line, and after a few seconds he pulls out this block of ice with the key to the next room in the middle. Since Ben carries a lighter on him, the other guys ask him for it to melt the ice quicker. He throws it across the ice and Danny goes to get it. As he picks it up, the ice beneath him cracks and he's thrust into the cold water. One of the girls tries to swim after him, but Jason tells her that there's a strong current in the water, so she can't save him. They try to get him out by hitting the ice, but it doesn't work, and shortly after he drowns. Here what the others can do is slam the big heavy ice block through the ice to create another hole where Danny could exit. But first they should get off the ice to not risk falling in. The force of the block is more likely to work than stomping on the spot where Danny is. Even if you manage to somehow stomp through the ice, you'd kick Danny in the face and then you would also fall in, so that doesn't do anything, whereas the block with its metallic edges can really crack a new hole. Then they could get Danny out and fish out the block afterwards. They also shouldn't give up on him so quickly, because Danny can still be saved after he drowns. Even though he's shown to pass out, he's no longer moving, meaning that there's no current, so it's safe to jump in. If they continue searching for him and swim after him like the one girl wanted to, they can still get him out and perform CPR. There are plenty of instances of people being resuscitated even though they drowned. But there's another solution. In the beginning, Jason mentioned that there's a current in the water, but I don't think that there really is one. This would make rescuing Danny a lot easier. First of all, the water where the hole is appears to be still. There's little to no movement and nothing you couldn't outswim. And it's not exactly clear where the current would be going since Danny floats all over the place, meaning that it would somehow flow in every direction simultaneously. And after he drowns, his body is entirely still. So without a current, what they can try as a team is that one person hangs into the hole, sort of as a beacon that Danny could swim towards. This is important because it's almost impossible to tell where the entry hole is when you're underneath the ice. It all looks the same. Meanwhile, the others would signal and lead him to where he needs to go. After Danny's death, the group turns their attention to getting the key out of the ice. Their solution is to surround it with as much body heat as possible. After putting their hands on it and Mike hugging it, they eventually manage to get the key out of the ice. Their approach of covering it with their hands isn't a bad idea, however you shouldn't do it in the snow but rather on the porch of the cottage. There it's not wet, there's no ice, and you'll get some heat radiating from the house, which would greatly speed up the process. Instead, what they do is sit on the ice covered in snow while their butt is getting wet, making them even colder. Once the ice block has become a little smaller, you can throw this small chunk of ice on the floor to crack it open. That way you wouldn't have to melt it entirely, and you would spend a lot less time in the cold. They use the key to unlock the door and make it into the next room. The door closes behind them and they find themselves in an upside down bar with a big pool table. The ceiling of the room is really the floor they are standing on. They see that to escape they need to find the handle to the yellow exit door. However, every time the phone rings, a piece of the floor drops, revealing a deep pit, meaning that they need to make sure that they stay off the ground or they might fall in with the next ring. Amanda starts climbing and finds a locked safe behind the bar. There's also a big sliding puzzle on the wall which can help with the combination. The safe and the puzzle are on opposite ends of the room, so while Amanda is by the safe, all the others make their way to the exit where the puzzle is. But they must be careful as more pieces of the floor drop with every phone ring. When Zoey completes the sliding puzzle, it shows them the combination to the safe. In it, Amanda finds the door handle. With everyone except for her across the room, Amanda needs to make her way to the other side. But every piece of the floor is already gone, except for the big center part, so she can't just walk to the other end. She jumps at the pool table and tries to shimmy along the ledge, but after half of the way she doesn't have enough energy left and hangs from the table. Then the ball falls out of her pants onto the final floor piece. She drops down, gets the ball and throws it to Jason. The phone then rings and the last part of the floor drops, making Amanda fall to her death. Now the people in this movie are actually doing pretty well. They work in a team and aren't selfish. Still, what Amanda can do to survive is instead of using her arms to monkey bar her way across the table, she can climb on top of it, which in this room would be underneath. That way you only have to do one pull-up. Then to get to the other end of the room, you can crawl underneath it or alongside it. But in case you have little to no energy left, like Amanda, there's a simpler but slightly riskier solution. You can walk on this ledge which goes along the entire room. This is much easier and more secure than hanging from a table if you know you're not strong enough. The characters even used this as a safe technique multiple times before, so get the ball, climb down and move along the ledge. Then you can join the others by the exit. When they're remaining for a leave, they find themselves in a hospital room. There the TV starts playing and shows them a fake advertisement for a surgeon. It tells them to test their limits along with a 5-minute timer. After assembling a few clues, the guys find an EKG machine which measures their heart rate. If the 5-minute timer is up, a toxic gas held by 6 containers will spread in the room and kill them. With the time pressure getting to him, Jason believes that they're supposed to show a really high heart rate on the EKG, which would unlock the next room.
It's not working. Somebody else has to do it.
Mike, we need a higher rate. You gotta go.
Mike connects himself to the device and Jason uses a defibrillator to skyrocket his heart rate. He uses it over and over again, which ends up killing Mike. Even though he ended up having a crazy high heart rate, the door still doesn't open. The 5 minutes run out and the toxic gas spreads in the room. Then Jason conveniently figures out that they're actually supposed to get a lower heart rate. He connects himself to the EKG, does some meditation and gets his heart rate as low as he can. At 70 beats per minute, the device reads "Congratulations" and the next room opens up. But Zoey doesn't want to go. Instead, she wants to stay in the toxic room and smash all the cameras. She believes that with no one being able to monitor them, they can get an upper hand over the people watching. So beating the hospital room is a little trickier. But it's shown that the tanks that release the gas are strapped to the wall. What they can do to slow down the gas is wrap the tanks with the hospital sheets or just in general cover them so the gas doesn't spread as quickly. I think wrapping the tanks alone could save them, as knowing that they have a few extra minutes before they pass out would get them to think more clearly. Then Jason would probably be more careful before killing one of the people in their group. There are also numerous oxygen masks lying around which can buy them even more time. It's shown later on that Zoey used them to stop suffocating from the gas. They would have to put the tube in a place where the gas can't go, and then they'd have an almost infinite amount of time to beat the puzzle. Ben and Jason then head into the next room and leave Zoey behind. She ends up smashing all the cameras and appears to suffocate from the gas, but as I already said, she ends up using the oxygen mask to survive. The two guys who left the hospital setting then find themselves in a black and white room. In the corner they see a hatch and twist the valve to open it. But unfortunately there's a toxic liquid on the handle. Both of them experience severe dizziness and nausea shortly after. On the inside it tells them that they need to find an antidote fast. The liquid appears to be some sort of hallucinogen that distorts their view and disorients them. After checking the walls, Ben finds the cure in a small drawer. He gets in a fight with Jason, and even though he's not as strong, Ben manages to overpower him and injects himself with the antidote. So this one you can't really beat because of the simplicity of the problem. There isn't any intricate task, but just both of you are poisoned, now fight for the antidote, so one of them won't make it. If all the people made it this far, only the ones who didn't touch the hatch and the one who got the antidote would get out, so at least one person won't leave. I tried looking up what it was they touched and how long it would take for them to die from it, but I couldn't find any drugs that would cause these symptoms by only touching it. But that's why Zoey's approach in the hospital room is the best one. Of course they can't really know that going in, but smashing the cameras and getting the oxygen masks would allow them to all live. That way they wouldn't suffocate from the gas, and as we see later, it will enable them to leave the game. After Ben injects himself with the antidote, he enters the final room. At the long end, Ben sees a puzzle and starts moving the numbers around. This activates a wall which starts closing in.
Okay, I got 10 numbers, 4 spots. I need a 4-digit code. No.
Ben tries to find the code to the puzzle, but the one he gets doesn't work. The wall comes in closer, leaving fewer and fewer space for him. He manages to survive here by taking a shield and jumping into the fireplace at the last moment. It's in a little space that the wall can't reach and goes by. Now, as we found out earlier, the first thing to do is not touch anything without knowing what you're doing. We saw this to a lesser degree in the previous rooms where not thinking through your ideas has fatal consequences. And here Ben doesn't even know what the puzzle is and he instantly starts entering numbers. So just waiting a little bit can go a long way. Also, if you look at how this wall moves, you can evade it by going into any of the bookshelves or small spaces that the wall can't reach, but you'd have to clear it out first. Those methods are a lot less risky than jumping into an open fire, even though it worked out for Ben. So if 5 of them made it this far, they could all have a safe place in the room. Meanwhile with Zoey, 2 men in hazmat suits enter through a secret door to clear the room. It turns out that she used the oxygen mask to survive and attacks the 2 guards. She surprises them, kills them both and leaves. Ben then enters a big hall where he faces the games master.
From the beginning of civilization, we've known there was something captivating about watching human beings fight for their lives. That's why we watch gladiator games.
It's revealed that this organization is funded by powerful and ultra-rich people around the world who take pleasure in watching. The man tries to kill Ben since no one is supposed to come out alive to expose them, but lucky for him, Zoey enters to help. They both fight and kill the Games Master, after which they walk out alive. Since there appears to be only one Games Master, if they all managed to come this far, it would be pretty easy to beat him since it would be 5 against 1. And the cleanup guys would still be busy with the last room. Anyways, that night the police speak to Zoey and take her to the building so that she can show them what happened. But to her surprise, the house is completely abandoned. All of it's empty and there's no sign of any rooms. It's already been cleaned up. The police tell her that with no evidence they can't investigate anything. This is where Danny's phone could have been crucial. Throughout the day, Danny took some photos. If they managed to save Danny, they would still have the pictures that would prove their experience. That way the police would have some proof of the rooms and their organization would be in trouble. They would either face an investigation or the group would share their experience with the evidence in the media. Anyways, a few months later, Zoey and Ben meet for coffee. Ben has since drastically improved his life, but Zoey can't let go of what happened. They decide to track down the organization to presumably end the escape rooms once and for all. That's the dangerous, fatal escape rooms, not the normal ones. In a short epilogue, we can see that the organization is already preparing for Zoey and Ben to come to them. They have designed a new room taking place on the airplane that Zoey and Ben will be taking. Now I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely gonna watch the sequel. Anyways, let me know how you would escape or if I got anything wrong. I will see you guys in Saw 5, I hope you liked it, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.